You wake up choking on dust. The floor's dirt, the air sour with sweat and smoke. You're in ancient Greece. Congratulations, you've time-travelled straight into poverty. Your first thought isn't where am I, it's who owns me? Because here somebody always does. They call this the cradle of civilization. Q. You're the baby and the cradle's on fire. You think of marble statues, philosophy and democracy. Try crackdans, stale barley and back pain that starts at 14. The philosophers invent ethics. You invent ways not to pass out. You're not a citizen. You're not even close. You might be a slave, a metic or a woman. All versions of invisible. Your workday starts at sunrise and ends when the dark says stop. Nobody asks if you're tired. Tired isn't a concept here, it's the baseline. Still, you tell yourself today might be different. Maybe the overseer's in a good mood. Maybe the crop will hold. Maybe you'll get a scrap of fish with dinner, something with flavour. For 1 minute you believe it. Then he kicks over your jar, says it's not full enough. The water spills into the dust. You stare frozen, because that's your morning, gone. You think the gods are cruel. Wait till you meet your overseer. At least the gods don't check your teeth. You want to scream. You don't. You keep your eyes down, because here, anger isn't rebellion, it's suicide. Still, in your head, you curse them all. The masters, the gods, the city that calls itself free. They say hard work is holy. Sure, holy like a hole in your shandal. The gods reward the diligent, the priest says. Yeah? Then your back must be halfway to Olympus by now. You glance toward the city. Marble temples shimmer on the hill, blind in white in the sun. You can almost hear the philosophers debating truth and justice, while a dozen slaves carry the water to keep them cool. The same gods who demand sacrifices also demand tips. Miss one, and they send plague as a receipt. You keep working. The jar's heavy, your shoulders ache. Somewhere a man recites poetry about the beauty of labour. He's never held a plough. You wonder if anyone ever looks down from those temples and sees you. You already know the answer. It's barely noon. Your throat burns, your stomach's hollow, and the day's only half done.
You think surviving ancient Greece means strength. Wrong. It means silence. And tonight, when the torches burn and the gods want blood, silence won't save you. Every city thinks it's better than the past. So, your turn. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see who'd actually survive a week in ancient Greece. And if you made it this far without looking away, hit like and subscribe. You've earned it. Alright, so the sun's directly overhead, which means punishment. No shade, no pause. You keep working while the overseer chews olives in the shade you're not allowed to stand under. Sweat drips into your eyes, your vision blurs. If you faint, they'll pour water on the ground, not in your mouth, just to make a point. They say Greece birthed democracy. You're still waiting on your invitation to vote. The same city that debates freedom in marble halls has people chained in its fields. But don't worry, they call it necessary labour. It sounds cleaner that way. You hear the priest's chant rolling from the temple. He's asking the gods for a good harvest. Not for you, of course, for the landowners. The gods don't do retail. You're the middleman between divine mercy and their comfort, and you're not even sure either one exists. Then a cloud moves across the sun. Shade. Coolness. For a second it feels like a gift from the gods. You straighten your back. Maybe someone up there noticed. Maybe. Then lightning strikes a goat in the distance. The priest calls it omen of favour. Favour for whom isn't clear, but the goat's opinion was probably negative. You think the gods bless the righteous? They bless whoever has enough silver for sacrifices. You can't even afford the incense. You grit your teeth. You want to shout, to ask why the gods need payment to care, why men born rich get divine credit scores. But your throat's too dry and your voice too small. Besides, anger here doesn't change your fate. It just gives them a reason to remind you of it. At least the flies love you. They treat everyone equally. The priest says suffering purifies the soul, then takes another bite of honey cake. You laugh under your breath. It's either that or cry. and tears are just more salt you can't spare. You pass the temple gates later, arms trembling under the weight of a basket. Inside, you glimpse the statue of Zeus, 20 feet tall, gold-plated, eyes made of ivory.
It looks alive, it looks hungry, and you realize every coin you'll never touch went into feeding that god's smile. By late afternoon, your muscles are gone, replaced by pain that's learned to live in you. The city hums in the distance, trading ideas about beauty and virtue, while you trade hours of your life for bread. You stop asking if it's fair. Fairness doesn't exist yet. Philosophers haven't invented it. The sky's turning gold. The priests prepare for evening sacrifice. You'll watch from the edge, too dirty to approach, too tired to kneel. They'll praise the gods for abundance. You'll stare at your empty hands. But when the blood hits the altar and the crowd cheers, something inside you stirs. Tomorrow, you swear, you won't bow, not to men, not to gods, not again. The sun droops like a blood orange over the rooftops. You drag your body home, if a room without windows counts as home. The city smells of olive oil, sweat, and ambition. Men pour out of workshops, brushing dust from their tunics, eager to look like they didn't just spend the day inhaling it. The agora changes at dusk. The same stalls that sold tools now sell illusions. Figs polished to look sweeter, wine stretched with water so no one admits how thin the harvest was. You pass a baker shouting, 2 obols for bread, as if volume could fill an empty stomach. And there, amid the shouting, comes the first laugh. A group of men at a wine shop. They're already tipsy, arguing about virtue, while the slave pouring their drink hasn't eaten since dawn. You think the gods are cruel, wait till you meet your overseer. At least the gods don't charge interest on your suffering. They laugh. The slave laughs too, a hollow sound trained for survival. For a moment you almost believe in the warmth of it, but humour in this city is just grease on the gears. It helps the machine run smoother. Inside the richer homes, the feast begins. The host reclines on a couch, legs spread like a conqueror, and praises moderation while his table groans under figs and roasted lamb. A flute girl plays in the corner. She's 13 maybe. Her eyes are empty but steady. She's learned that looking directly at anyone can be dangerous. Philosophers call this the good life. They talk of reason and virtue as if a full stomach is proof of moral superiority. You wonder what virtue is worth when bought by someone else's hunger.
The air thickens. Torches flicker. Shadows crawl along the walls. The laughter grows louder but less human. It's the laughter of men desperate to drown the truth that tomorrow they'll wake to the same ache. A toast rises. To freedom, the gift of the gods. And somewhere outside, a slave coughs blood into the dirt. You step back into the street, the sound of the lyre fading behind you. The sky's violet now. The stars appear, indifferent spectators to the theatre below. You realise the real festival isn't in the homes, it's in the quiet hypocrisy that wraps the whole city. You feel something close to pride, a pride in surviving, in seeing through the illusion. But that pride is a trap too. The city doesn't punish rebellion, it smothers it under irony. By the time the moon climbs over the rooftops, you're laughing again. At yourself, at them, at the gods. Not because it's funny, but because it's the only sound that isn't begging. The crowds shift toward the theatre. The same people who preached moderation now crave blood and tragedy. Torches hiss in the wind. Vendors sell roasted chickpeas. Drunks weave between them, swearing by Dionysus that tonight's play will move the soul. The theatre's open air, carved from the hillside, a half-moon of stone, staring down at the stage. Thousands cram in. Rich men sit near the front, their slaves standing behind them, ready to fetch wine or fan flies. The play begins. Masks, chorus, tragedy. A king kills his son by mistake. The crowd gasps, as if murder is foreign to them. They weep in public, proud of their sensitivity. And then afterwards they'll go home and whip a servant for spilling oil. Catharsis, they call it. You call it rehearsal. A drunk behind you mutters, "The gods demand balance." You glance up. The moon looks more like an eye, unblinking, unsympathetic. Somewhere out there, a plague festers. and 100 families still burn their dead. But for now, everyone pretends the city is whole. A comic actor enters, playing a philosopher. The audience roars with laughter as he trips over his robe. They laugh harder when he's accidentally beaten by a woman on stage. They love that kind of irony. It lets them feel progressive while staying cruel. They say knowledge is power, the actor wheezes, but power doesn't read. The crowd howls. Even you grin. The joke lands, but behind it something twists. Humour here isn't rebellion, it's anesthesia. Every laugh dulls the nerve that might revolt. When the play ends, the applause rolls like thunder. The rich toss coins to the actors. You think of how many mouths that money could feed. Then you catch yourself, thinking that way is dangerous. Pity is a form of treason. You walk home through narrow streets. The city exhales. Fires dim, dogs bark. Somewhere in the distance, a woman screams. Childbirth or something worse. No one moves to help. You pass a shrine. A small one, Hermes, god of thieves. Someone's left bread there, hard and cracked. Offerings for a god who'd steal them back anyway. You want to laugh again, but your throat's dry. At the edge of the city, a breeze from the hills brings the smell of wild thyme. It's the only clean scent all day. You pause. For a heartbeat, you feel peace, the kind that almost feels holy. Then a shout breaks it, a guard yelling, a slave caught running. The peace shatters like clay underfoot. The guard strikes, the body drops, and silence returns, heavier than before. You realise this is how the polis keeps its shape. Laughter, feast, blood, silence. Repeat. You're just one breath in that rhythm, useful until you're not. As you lie on your mat, the city hums around you. Drunken songs, the last crackle of torches. The gods are watching, you think. But maybe the cruelest part is this. They're entertained. You wake before dawn, not because you're disciplined, but because the coughing never stops. The air in your room tastes like clay dust and sweat, the leftovers of 10 other bodies breathing too close. The roosters are liars. They don't crow for the sun, just to remind you you're still alive. Barely. The streets are quiet now, but give it an hour and they'll come alive. The groans of carts, sandals slapping mud, and someone shouting prices that haven't changed in 20 years. You'll step over a beggar, because if you drop a coin, 5 more appear. The city breeds hunger faster than it breeds grain. Someone once said Athens shines with freedom. Sure, if you can afford it. For everyone else, it's a machine that runs on backs. And yours is running out of muscle.
You pass the temple steps. They glimmer with oil offerings, white marble against the sky turning pale. Beautiful, right? Except you know who scrubs that marble. You do. You, or someone who looks like you, with a sponge made of reeds and salt water that eats through your skin by the end of the month. You keep it clean so the gods won't be offended, though they never notice when you bleed on the stone. And just for fun, if you're a woman, you're not even allowed near that altar when you're unclean. You smile at that word, unclean. It's what they call the ones who give birth, the ones who die doing it, 1 in 10. Civilization has its math. Further down, the marketplace starts to stir. You hear the sound of a whip. Just one crack, a punctuation mark. Nobody flinches. That's how normal it is. A metic forgot his tax receipt, maybe, or a slave broke a pot. Either way, it'll be fixed with blood, not paperwork. A philosopher once said virtue is its own reward. You saw that same man buy a girl younger than your sister last week. The city applauded his wisdom. Nobody laughed, except you. Quietly, because if you don't laugh, you scream. They call it democracy, but only men with land get a say. The rest of you are background noise, the hum that keeps the show running. You haul, you clean, you age too fast. You think about rebelling? Ask the helots how that goes. Oh wait, you can't. They're dead. Sparta takes labour management personally. Someone whispers about Melos, how every man was killed and every woman sold when they tried to stay neutral. Neutrality's not an option here. You belong to someone, or you disappear. By midday, the sun's already punishing you for existing. The city smells like fish and sweat and bad decisions. Your tunic sticks to your skin, your stomach's half empty, and your pockets are worse. You dream of olives, but you'll settle for barley bread if it hasn't gone mouldy. The rich dine on figs and wine. You chew your crust and watch, pretending it tastes like philosophy. You want to believe there's justice, so you look to the courts, but justice here has a price tag. A slave's word means nothing unless it's dragged out under torture. Imagine that. Pain as a legal tool. They call it seeking truth. You call it what it is. Sanctioned cruelty.
The day drags on. A funeral passes. You step aside. The dead man's wife wails, hair unbound, robe torn. It looks traumatic until you realise she's mourning for a man who owned people. Maybe even you. The city will praise his virtue tomorrow. They'll forget your name by dusk. Night again. Fires flicker across rooftops, laughter leaking through the cracks. Somewhere, someone's praying to Athena for wisdom. Someone else is selling a child behind the same wall. You've stopped asking which gods listen. They all seem deaf. You climb the hill overlooking the city. It's quiet up here. From this distance, Athens almost looks holy. Lamps glowing like constellations. Marble glowing like it's made of moonlight. You could almost believe in it. Almost. Then you remember the mines. Men coughing their lungs out in tunnels too narrow to stand. Scraping silver from rock until their fingers turn black. No daylight, no air, no names. 5 years, that's the lifespan down there if you're lucky. That silver coin's the democracy. It shines on temples. It pays for theatre tickets, for poetry, for speeches about freedom. It's beautiful, but it's built on corpses. You laugh, not bitterly, just tired. Civilization always looks better when you can't smell it. Below, a crowd gathers near the plaza. Torches, drums, a festival. Maybe. Or an execution. Hard to tell anymore. Someone says the condemned mocked a priest. Others say he spoke too freely in the assembly. Doesn't matter. They'll make a lesson out of him either way. You think of the word atimia. Loss of rights, loss of face. You realise most people here are born in that state. They just haven't had the trial yet. The crowd cheers as the man drinks the hemlock. You catch the smell of crushed herbs and sweat. Someone mutters that Socrates took it calmly like a man of reason. You wonder if calm is just another name for hopelessness. The torches fade. The city quiets. You sit there, watching it breathe. The perfect contradiction. Beauty and brutality sharing the same air. You've learned the rules by now. Keep your head down, keep your mouth shut. Laugh when you're supposed to, and never, ever believe the stories they tell about glory. Because they'll sell you civilization, but what they're really offering is survival, one sunrise at a time. And if you think you could last here, if you think you'd thrive in the birthplace of reason, you wouldn't. You'd break by noon, just like the rest of us.